A quick study in two colors. I'm using blue and brown, or more specifically, primary blue for Maimeri and burnt sienna. You can also use Prussian blue or Windsor blue or phthalo blue, green shade. They're all very similar. Very potent, strong blues. I don't work off a reference for this painting, and you can see I don't even have a sketch. In my mind, I have a forest scene I want to paint with a light background and very soft background trees. So I'm just going to start with a wet in wet sky and drop in some very light values there. And I'm going to give this a minute to settle before I add my first tree line. Cooler at the top and warmer at the bottom in the foreground. So more of the burnt sienna as I work my way down to the foreground. Now I chose these colors for no particular reason other than I want to try all different combinations in my palette that I usually don't use. I don't use this blue very often just because it's so highly staining and can easily overpower other colors, which doesn't really fit into my style of painting. But I'm realizing that if I tone it down with burnt sienna, that obviously has quite a red hue to it, which neutralizes the green shade in it, and I can create some lovely greens from sort of blue-green that I'm putting now in the background for the distant trees versus the warmer and a bit more muted greens that I've put there on the left-hand side. Also, those two colors will mix a pretty strong value. I can get really dark with those two. Obviously, blue and orange, which would be the purest versions of those two colors, are complementary colors. So they will cancel each other out, get a great range of muted colors, grays and darks, which is exactly what I'm doing now, just adding some shadows underneath those trees. The first layer has dried, and now I can come in and do some dry brushing and continue with my build-up of the forest scene with a bit more detail of the middle ground and the foreground. I'm just trying to build up a pleasing composition as I don't have a reference image in front of me. And I find it actually quite liberating, so I'm not constrained having to copy something that's in front of me. I can just go with the flow. You can see the paint is quite thick and dry, hence I get a lovely dry brush texture there as I paint in this tree. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Loaded my brush up again with a lot of the dark pigment, and I'm just going to drag it up. Painting trees from memory is not that easy because our brain always wants to paint the trees that we painted as little kids. And you got to think hard about how branches split off from the main trunk. The angles and the positioning, that little branch there looks very weak. I'm going to have to fix that up. But first let me connect that tree into the foreground. And now I'm going to lift off some of that main trunk just to get a bit more volume into it, a bit of light and shade. You can see on my palette how I just keep dipping back into the blue and the burnt sienna and keep shifting my mix, from a blue to a green to a brown. Always thinking more about value and temperature rather than colors. Up until now, I've only used one brush, which is a Kolinsky round brush, and now I'm switching to a finer brush, a calligraphy brush, because I want to add some finer lines here and there, some saplings and grass in the foreground, a few more fine trees just to build up some texture. And then that gap there in the middle that bothers me a bit, which can be easily fixed by putting in some more distant trees with a very light blue. I decided I wanted to pop in a person walking through the forest, which only takes a couple of small brush strokes. And I think I could have gone a little bit bigger. Those trees now look gigantic. So maybe this is a redwood forest, and then the trees would be roughly to scale. A little dog walking alongside adds a bit of story and gives the person a purpose. And that's it. I hope you agree. You can achieve a lot with only two colors if you choose the right ones.